You were in there for 3 minutes.
Silo Season 3 just delivered its most powerful episode yet, and Episode 3 did not let a single scene breathe without earning it. Will Camille actually kill Juliette while she is unconscious in that recovery room? And does the algorithm's suggestion mean the Silo's controlling intelligence has been steering toward this outcome since before the rebellion even ended? Is Lukas Kyle alive and actively digging a tunnel between the silos? And if the safeguard protocol fires the moment silo-to-silo contact is made, does that mean Lukas is either suicidal or in possession of information that makes the safeguard irrelevant? Who is Steve? Where did he go? And does the wrecked basement mean Henry had him killed, or that Steve is smarter than anyone gave him credit for? And what does Victor's deliberate memory manipulation of Charlotte reveal about the origins of the Vitamin D Plus program? Is the Silo's memory suppression system not a response to the apocalypse, but the cause of it? Every one of those questions has an answer, and this breakdown covers all of them. And if this is the Silo content fans want every Friday on this channel, hitting subscribe and the like button keeps the breakdowns coming the morning after each new episode drops on Apple TV+. The single most important moment in a dark web is not Lukas Kyle appearing from the darkness of the mines to drag Juliette out of the gas. It is not Orla's body being carried out while Paul watches with the specific devastation of a man who realizes his own investigation came too slow. It is the final scene in the recovery room, and what makes it genuinely terrifying is how reasonable the algorithm makes it sound. Juliette is unconscious, breathing through an oxygen mask, fragile in a way she has never been permitted to be while conscious. Camille is standing over her with the awareness that this is the most complete access anyone in IT has had to Juliette since the rebellion made her untouchable by official action. And the algorithm, that disembodied voice that has framed every monstrous suggestion this season as a calculation rather than a choice, lays out the logic with the patience of a system that has been running this exact scenario in its projections for months. If Juliette dies now, from her injuries, from her bravery, from an act of self-sacrifice that the entire silo witnessed, the grief that follows will be organic and irreversible. There will be no rebellion against a tragedy. The Vitamin D Plus does not need to go into the water supply. Nobody needs their memories wiped. Juliette's death, positioned correctly, is cheaper and cleaner than mass sedation. A single action that produces the same population compliance outcome at a fraction of the systemic risk. The show holds on Camille's face as she hears this laid out. The show does not tell viewers what she decides. That is the most precise and deliberate horror the episode could have manufactured. And it works completely because the preceding 50 minutes have built Camille as someone who genuinely believes she is doing all of this for her son and for the people of Silo 18. The hope buried inside this nightmare scenario, and there is real hope, specific and earned, lies in Robert Sims. Everything the episode does with Robert is pointing toward a man approaching a breaking point that is going to benefit Juliette enormously. His conversation with Juliette when she confronts him about Lukas rattles him not because she is threatening him, but because she cannot remember a relationship with her father, and that specific absence, the blank space where Pete Nichols used to exist in Juliette's interior life, hits Robert somewhere he was not prepared to be hit. He sees in Juliette's memory loss a preview of what the algorithm intends for Anthony, and he does not like what he sees. He goes home and finds his son, and the boy gives back the Pez dispenser, the small red artifact that was never just a trinket, but always a symbol of what it costs to hold on to things in a world designed to make everyone let go. And Robert understands in that precise moment what the memory protocol is actually asking him to surrender. It is not asking him to protect Anthony from rebellion. It is asking him to allow his son to grow up without the knowledge that his parents existed, without any tether to the people who loved him, in exchange for the possibility of an escape that the algorithm controls the timing of and has never been obligated to deliver. Camille tells him this is acceptable. Robert is not convinced. He is, in fact, the most important face in the episode to watch after Camille's, because every single thing Camille says to him about the greater good is landing with diminishing returns on a man who has already made his peace with a great deal of darkness, and is now being asked to make peace with one thing too many. However, unfortunately, a Robert who breaks toward Juliette has to break fast, because the woman he is breaking toward is currently unconscious, with the head of IT standing over her and an algorithm in her ear, suggesting the most permanent possible solution. The most likely explanation for the algorithm's escalating suggestions, from memory suppression to full silo vitamin D plus dosing, to now proposing the outright murder of the mayor, is that the algorithm is not a neutral intelligence optimizing for the silo's survival. It is a system optimizing for the conditions under which the silo remains controllable, and those two things are not the same objective. The evidence is visible across every interaction the algorithm has with Camille in a dark web. It frames each escalation as a logical response to a specific threat, but the specific threat in each case is not violence, or starvation, or structural collapse. The specific threat is always information. Juliette is a threat because she might find Lukas. Lukas is a threat because he might have tunneled toward Silo 17. The recording Steve had is a threat because it documents what happened to Charlotte and the pilots. Victor's treatment of Charlotte in the before times is a threat because it erased the evidence of what the nanite goo actually did to those planes. Every move the algorithm makes or suggests is designed to prevent the silo's population from knowing something, not from dying, not from suffering, but from knowing. The show has been building this distinction across 3 episodes, and episode 3 is the moment it crystallizes into something fans can hold and examine. The most logical conclusion is that the algorithm has always known that the world outside is not dead in the way the silo's population has been told, that the information Lukas found in the Digger Void confirms this, and that the system has been running a containment operation against the truth since before Juliette was born. However, unfortunately for the algorithm, Juliette recognized Lukas the instant he pulled her out of the gas, instinctively, in the dark, without any of her formal memories, which means the suppression is not as complete as it calculates. The evidence strongly suggests that the parallel between Charlotte's memory manipulation in the before times and Juliette's vitamin regime in the present is not a thematic coincidence, but the show's explicit argument about how systems of control perpetuate themselves across centuries. Victor explains his method to Daniel with the language of compassion. The drugs suppress Charlotte's memories entirely at first, then allow selected memories to surface as she heals, while the memories associated with trauma are permanently deleted. What Victor does not explain, and what Helen forces Daniel to understand when she contacts Charlotte directly at the Heidi Stenson clinic, is that the memories being deleted are not just painful, they are evidential. Charlotte's recollection of what happened on that bombing run is the only first-hand account of what the black nanite goo actually does to human technology, to human bodies, and to the chain of command that sent those pilots in without telling them what they were flying into. Deleting those specific memories is not therapy. It is a cover-up, and it is a cover-up that Victor is performing while presenting himself to Daniel as a healer. The most logical conclusion is that the vitamin D plus program in Silo 18 centuries later is not an invention of judicial and IT. It is an inheritance. The system that Victor was operating in the before times evolved, was formalized, was built into the architecture of the silo itself, and became the vitamin D plus protocol. The algorithm did not create the memory suppression program. The algorithm is the memory suppression program, running continuously since the silos were built, and the people it has produced, the Camilles, the Bernards, the Simpsons, are its operators rather than its architects. The evidence also strongly suggests that Steve is alive, and the fan community has been divided since the episode ended on whether the wrecked basement represents Henry's operatives cleaning up a loose end or Steve staging his own disappearance. The evidence points firmly toward the latter. Steve is a man who clones congressional badges for leverage, stores harrowing government recordings on cassette tapes, and operates through dark web intermediaries. He demands collateral before providing anything of value. He has survived long enough doing this to become useful to people far more powerful and dangerous than Daniel or Helen, which means he has protocols for exactly the situation that unfolded after they left. When he listens to that recording alongside Helen and Daniel in the basement, his reaction is not the reaction of someone hearing it for the first time. It is the reaction of someone who has been carrying the weight of it for a long time and is watching two other people absorb that weight in real time. Steve already knows what is on the cassette. He has known for a while, which means he has had time to make copies, and the copy he gave Daniel and Helen may not have been his only one. A man who knows that much about Henry's network and who has been operating in the shadows long enough to acquire that knowledge without being found is a man who has contingency plans built in layers. The most logical reading of the destroyed basement is that Steve spotted Henry's people following Daniel and Helen on their way out and burned his own room before they arrived and vanished through a channel that cannot be traced. However, unfortunately, if Steve is alive and in hiding, the most dangerous question is not whether the recording still exists, but whether Daniel and Helen can survive long enough to find the person who holds it. While the main engine of a dark web runs on Juliette's race through the silo and Camille's escalating decisions, there is a secondary story quietly accumulating the most long-term weight of anything in the episode, and it belongs to Orla Kent. The show introduced Orla in the Season 3 premiere, and then, as multiple critics noted this week, almost immediately stopped devoting scenes to Billings's search for her. That neglect is going to read very differently on a rewatch, because what the episode reveals is that Orla was not simply a missing person embedded in a soap operatic subplot about stolen jobs and ex-boyfriends. Orla was in charge of sending vitamin D+ from supply to filtration. Orla, according to Sheila, had changed in the weeks before her disappearance, her usual upbeat manner replaced by something quieter and more frightened. The most logical conclusion is that Orla discovered what vitamin D+ actually is, and that the discovery is what got her killed. She is not in the mines because of Mike Davidson or Glenda's family or any personal vendetta. She is in the mines because she found out something she was not supposed to find out, and someone in the supply chain or in IT made sure she ended up somewhere she could not speak about it. Her death in the mines during Camille's fumigation order is not random collateral damage. It is the silo system functioning exactly as designed. A person who learned too much has been permanently silenced by an action that will be recorded as an operational accident. Billings is going to understand this, and a Billings who understands this is going to stop being a peripheral character and become one of the most dangerous investigators in the building. What makes A Dark Web the most structurally important episode of Silo Season 3 is not any single revelation, but the way it collapses the distance between its two timelines into a single, continuous argument about who gets to decide what is remembered. The before-time sequences have been building a picture of a world in which governments suppress truth through technology, media, and medicine, using compassion as the language through which control is administered. The present-day sequences have been building a picture of a civilization in which that suppression has become total, architectural, and invisible to the people living inside it, so complete that the controllers themselves have stopped questioning whether it is right and started arguing only about the most efficient method of maintaining it. Episode 3 is the first episode where the show makes that connection between the two timelines not just thematic, but mechanistic. Victor's cherry-picking of Charlotte's memories is the seed, and the vitamin D+ in the water supply is the crop, and the algorithm standing over Juliette's unconscious body and suggesting her murder is the harvest. The two timelines are not parallel stories. They are the same story, centuries apart, and the characters in the before times do not yet understand that the decisions they are making are being crystallized into the system that will govern every person in Silo 18 until Juliette Nichols refuses to take her vitamins. The 10-episode season has 3 episodes behind it and 7 ahead. That means the show is exactly 30% through its story, early enough that the full mechanism of the conspiracy can still be revealed gradually rather than all at once, and late enough that the pacing must now accelerate toward the confrontations the first 3 episodes have made inevitable. After everything A Dark Web has revealed, the algorithm's suggestion that Juliette be killed, Lukas Kyle alive and active in the mines, Orla's death as the silo system eliminating a witness, Steve's disappearance and the recording's uncertain fate, Victor's before times memory manipulation as the direct historical origin of the vitamin D+ program, and Robert Sims cracking under the weight of a conversation with a woman who cannot remember her own father. The question every viewer is now sitting with is the one the episode deliberately withheld. Does Camille go through with it? Season 3 of Silo is streaming weekly on Apple TV+, with new episodes dropping every Friday through September 4th, when the 10-episode season concludes. The weekly release model is not an accident for a show built on this kind of sustained pressure. It is a deliberate authorial choice, because a show that asks viewers to sit with the question of whether its hero is going to be murdered in a recovery room by a woman selected by an algorithm for her capacity for deception deserves 7 days of that sustained discomfort before it provides an answer. Apple TV Plus has not confirmed Season 4, though the show was renewed for Season 3, shortly after Season 2 concluded, and the pattern of early renewal has held since the premiere. The Before Times timeline still has the entire collapse of civilization ahead of it. The present-day timeline has 7 episodes to get Juliette out of that recovery room, find Lukas, reach whatever is in the digger void, and confront a system that has been designed since before anyone alive can remember to prevent exactly this sequence of events from happening. Based on everything Episode 3 has constructed, the 7 episodes remaining are going to be among the best television this show has ever produced. Ready Steady Cut awarded the episode a 4.5 out of 5, the highest single-episode score of the season so far, and the review's central observation is the one that matters most. This is a truly impressive show when it wants to be, and Episode 3 represents the moment it decided to want to be. Now the conversation moves to the viewers, and 3 specific debates from a dark web are already dividing the Silo fan community down the middle, all 3 of them worth bringing to the comments section this week. First, is Camille genuinely prepared to kill Juliette, or has the show been building toward a moment where Camille realizes the algorithm is manipulating her the same way she has been manipulating everyone else? And does the fact that the algorithm told Camille it selected her specifically for her capacity for deception mean the algorithm has already anticipated this doubt and accounted for it? Second, is Steve alive or dead? And if he staged his own disappearance, does the recording still exist somewhere on that cassette tape? And given what Daniel heard on it, what specific piece of information about the nanite goo is so dangerous that Henry was willing to blow his cover and act openly to retrieve it? And third, when Robert Sims finally breaks toward Juliette's side, which the episode makes feel not like a question of whether, but of when, will he break in time to stop Camille, or will he arrive at that recovery room door one scene too late? The video on screen covers everything else viewers need before Episode 4 of Silo Season 3 drops next Friday on Apple TV+.